Hey guys, it's a market update. I think things are going to get absolutely wild over the next few months. This chart setup is absolutely insane. Every single dip just being bought up. Very positive. Feels like buyers are still in the market here at 100K. And of course, a lot of resistance at this level. But what's going to break it through? Trump plans to designate crypto as a national priority. Executive order expected. Trump allies are discussing stopping federal crypto litigation. It's all here. It's all here. You just have to strap into this asset. I think it's going to be a lot like the ETFs where this was where the news kind of finally broke and the market cottoned on to the fact that the ETFs were actually happening. But there were months before that where you could dollar cost average at decent prices there. That move was 150%. And I know we've gone up again since then, and maybe this was pricing in a lot of this move. I just think the next 6 to 12 months, everything is falling in line here. America is the key. Like US going pro crypto means every other country now steps in line as well and goes pro crypto. There's just nothing more positive here. I want to strap into this asset because, look, it's just so obvious as a trade, right? Like I always say, if you do trade crypto and you don't have a Bybit account, link below will give you up to $30,000 as a deposit bonus. Some people can't trade on here. Check out Apex as well, down in the description. Permanent fee discount on there. That's Bybit's DEX, and you can trade on there from anywhere. Links below for the details. As I said in the previous video, I think there are 3 influences here, and I think they're all lining up. You have the Bitcoin cycle, which is playing out just as it always does. You have the macro cycle and the central bank cycle, which are playing out as they always do. I know people are saying, are they going to cut rates again? Inflation's a little bit high. If you read between the lines, the fake government metrics are all falling in line to what their fake target is going to be, which means that gives them cover to then go and cut more. And they need to cut and stimulate right around this time, right? This year is when the currency will debase itself further, and that means asset prices go up. And then you just have all of the fundamentals around a Trump admin being super pro-crypto and definitely pro-Bitcoin, which means everyone else has to be pro-crypto as well. Otherwise, they fall behind. So it's all here. This is MVRVZ. When we peak up at this level, this is actually a 2-year rolling MVRV from Bitcoin Magazine. And, we've had this one spike here. We've come down. I think we go again. I think it's a lot like this cycle right here where this was the money printing cycle. I think we get a more normal one like this where we have 3, 4, 5 attempts at new all-time highs. I think that's how we play out. And so a long way to go. And NUPL, net unrealized profit and loss, again, it's only up here when it gets super, super high that we have to worry about potentially topping out. We're not even there yet. So I just think super positive, a long way to go. And all of the metrics are saying that we could have a couple of big moves for the rest of this bull market. I really want to hammer home here that I still think Bitcoin is a great opportunity, but the CAGR, the yearly rate of return, is coming down. And so we don't have long left really to get these insane returns. Because look, other investments are great. The S&P, it's done really well. If you look at the S&P divided by the Fed's balance sheet, which is basically the rate of currency debasement of the dollar, right? It's not really going anywhere over time, right? It's pricing in currency debasement, but it's not making huge amounts of returns. And the S&P is great, but there's only a very small subsection of humanity that can actually buy that thing. The thing that we can all invest in is basically crypto, right? You can set up a wallet on a phone, you can earn it, you don't actually have to buy it, you don't have to ask permission to buy it or get it. And it's the only thing, right? And I just think we're going to go through this one single time. We're going to monetize this asset once and that's it. And how lucky are we that our generation actually gets to participate in this? The S&P is a great store of value, has been a great store of value, but the whole world can't buy it. Budget deficit rose in December and is now 40% higher than it was a year ago. 710 billion of a deficit. Now, people are telling me that the market's going to crash, right? And I'm saying that the market is crashing, right? But you can't let it crash down and let all of the houses and stocks that we own go to zero, which they should basically in fiat currency, right? Fiat currency has to push up asset prices to make sure that prices in the future are more than they are today, which means today's debt becomes comparatively cheaper in the future. That's how the fiat currency system works. It's literally a pyramid scheme, and I'll show you why, but it's important to realize, look at what China are doing, right? Historic levels of cash injection. Why is this? It's because the currency that we use isn't money, it is debt. And the way that you pay off debt is by creating more of the debt, because you have an amount of currency units with an interest rate, which means next time that the currency units have to be paid off, you actually need to create more currency units to bring back and pay off the previous debt, right? If you have a bank right here who creates an amount of debt and gives it to someone, right? So let's say they create 10K and give it to this person and they say, pay me back with interest. So they need to pay 11K in liabilities right? There's an 11K liability back to the bank. How on earth is he going to get an extra $1,000 to pay back the bank when there's no other currency units available? What has to happen is that the bank has to find more people to lend to. So now it gives them 10,000 each, but the problem is there's now 33,000 worth of liabilities that have to be paid back to the bank. So there's actually growing amount of liabilities, which means that they have to find more people to give debt to. And that looks like a pyramid, because fiat currency is literally a pyramid scheme, and you have to get out of that and not store any of your value in it. Inflation is required, absolutely necessary. This high spike in inflation was something that they actually desired and made happen. And the narrative is inflation's too high, we need to bring the market back a little bit. No. They absolutely require inflation to make today's debt cheaper in the future, and they need more and more currency units over time. This is what inflation actually looks like, right? This is what they show us, which is the rate of change. This is the cumulative effect of inflation over time, because you are measuring an amount of resources in ever-growing amounts of currency units, right? And they're going to cut rates because they have to make sure that the interest rate that they pay on this currency unit creation is as low as possible. Otherwise, it spirals faster and faster out of control. And so you can see the fake government metrics of inflation are around about 2%, which is their arbitrary figure that they want to keep to. But we know that the actual rate of inflation is more like 12%, because if you look at the Fed's balance sheet, that is the actual rate of inflation, and the S&P is the actual rate of inflation, which we need to beat, and Bitcoin is beating that right now, as well as a bunch of other assets. This is global debt, right? And people say, wow, this debt, the currency is the debt. If you have an amount of currency that needs to be paid off, it means you need to create more and more and more currency units to pay off previous people that were in. That's known as a Ponzi scheme. When you need new people to come in to pay off previous investors, that is literally the definition of a Ponzi scheme. And you need more and more currency units. And so this will go up and up and up, right? It has to, because there's an amount of interest to pay. There's an amount of currency units that need to be paid back that don't exist yet. So you need to create more and more and more currency units, which is why inflation actually takes place. Now, when there was a gold standard, this actually made sense, because a bank could take risk and actually give credit to somebody who could go out and actually trade with someone who has an amount of gold. And gold has an inflation rate of 2%, meaning that this could actually keep a check and balance on things. Like, things could actually grow, and you could find more gold and trade for more gold and pay back your debt. But because fiat currency is not anchored to any commodity right now, it's literally impossible to pay it off, right? The only way you pay it off is by creating more currency units. And so that's why central banks are printing money, because otherwise the fiat system would collapse in on itself. And the reason we can't have that happen is because we price all of our assets in that fiat currency, right? Houses and stocks and everything. So these assets are going to continue to go up because the currency is debasing itself. And the only way you try and slow this is by trying to inflate the debt away, by making the debt to GDP lower. And the amount of debt nominally would always increase. But what you try to do is inflate the GDP side by stimulating, right, and even creating more debt and printing money. And that inflates the GDP side, which brings the debt to GDP lower, which gives you some headroom. But the nominal amount of currency units must increase, which means that when valued in a scarce currency, what do you think is going to happen? So really, it's not about the price of BTC. You just have to look at the CAGR, right? The CAGR right now for BTC is about 40% for this cycle. And that's outperforming the SP and the NASDAQ. And that's why I think it should be the absolute center of your portfolio. And you can just make trades around it, whatever you want. But this is the key, right? Is getting this worldwide asset as it's monetizing. And we have to do that until the CAGR is like 25%. I think we've got a few cycles left. But look, it's just so positive for the asset. If you trade 30K as a deposit bonus on Bybit down below, and if you can't trade there, check out Bybit's DEX, which is Apex. You can get a permanent fee discount on there. I'm James, this is MoneyZG. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.